Namaskar and welcome to In Focus. Whilst the stock markets, industrialists and newspapers have been praising Mr. Chidambaram's budget, what do the left parties make of it? Important members of the government, they're traditional communists whose attitude to reform is at best suspicious. Here to explain their standpoint is the General Secretary of the CPM and a senior member of the United Front Steering Committee, Harkishan Singh Surjit. Mr. Surjit, we've just had one of the most liberal budgets of all time, revolutionary in the way it's cut taxes, and forthright in the way it's pushing economic reform forward. As a communist, how do you respond?
I will not like the use the word of traditional communism. What is traditional, untraditional communism, I don't understand. Anyway, is your outlook. I come to the budget itself. I will say that all the budgets have been after liberalization in the same framework. But this budget seemed to have impressed the big business and the multinationals the most. You can well imagine our attitude out of this, because we have been opposing the entry of multinationals in a way they want to enter. And we have been opposing that the policies, economic policies imposed by the World Bank, IMF, because their result has been seen in Latin American countries, and Mexico is the worst example of that. We don't want to be in death trap in the same way. Now also in this budget, 26% of all revenue has to go by the debt repayment, interest or whatever installments are there for that. And the bulk goes in that. So we are falling into death trap in this budget, which they are trying to cover up. They have not tried to explain. They have only explained how the rate of growth is going to increase. There also they have not stated. For instance, come to the food production itself. Agriculture sector has not been paid so much attention as it should have been, because they are only talking about the production, increase in production, which also is a slow increase now after the rapid rise of 1966, after the Green Revolution, all these things is there. They have not compared that rate of growth of population is much higher than the production in agriculture. Similarly, so far the tax revenues are concerned, budget is judged from that, where from do you mobilize the resources. Resource mobilization is the big thing. That whole bulk remains on the common man. Indirect taxes is the main. Direct taxes you have tried to reduce further. But already it is not much there. Agriculture remains completely untaxed. And you see all the bank loans, our financial institutions, though the agriculture also contributes that, they are used by 80%, 85% is may used by the big business houses. And we have seen also 47,000 crores of rupees are debts due from the big monopoly houses, which they are not paying off that.
That's the big picture. Let me, before we carry on with details, get a few snapshot impressions from you. Are you saying that this is not a pro-poor budget?
Naturally, it is not a pro-poor budget, it is pro-monopoly houses budget, because I am saying what concession they have given to them, this custom duty concession which has been given, it will harm the small-scale industry very much, and it will increase unemployment, and it will also provide dumping ground for India, for the multinational houses.
Are you saying,
cater to the requirement of a very small section of the population.
Are you saying that the benefits of this budget are targeted at the rich?
Rich are going to benefit more. I will not say that the poor are not going to get anything, because certain things which are there from the beginning to address to the poor also are there, and in that most important thing is the public distribution system, which is bound to neutralize the price side to an extent. So that, but taking overall picture, I would say it is a budget, elitist budget, which is going to benefit the upper layer of the population. You tell me.
Let me put something to you. It's been calculated that the tax cuts give a per capita benefit of 4,500 rupees to 12 lakh taxpayers. Yes. It's also been calculated that the increase in poverty schemes give a per capita benefit to 300 million Indians of only 40 rupees. Now, in your eyes, is that a wrong distribution of resources?
Not only wrong distribution, that 40 rupees also are not going to reach them. Every Prime Minister is on record. All these schemes we have formulated, hardly they reach the common man. 20 paisa out of 1 rupee reaches them, because all these yojanas, the way they are implemented, they remain in between. So not only that they benefit the richer thing, the benefit which accrues to the common man, we say 40 rupees, that is also doesn't reach them.
All right, it's pretty clear that you don't approve of the tax cuts in the way they're happening. You think the thrust is pro-rich, and you think that the fact that the MNCs and the World Bank like this budget makes you suspicious of the budget. Is that right?
Lot of concession to natural, lot of concession to the corporate sector, taxpayer, those who are upper layer I am talking about, and the concession which has been given on this also, they are so much, they goes only to benefit the upper section of our population, that is the monopoly houses, big businessmen and the foreign monopoly.
Do you think enough has been done about the poor?
You can, no, I will not say nothing has been. If
No,
they don't
has
do-
enough been done?
No, not at all enough. If the enough is done, that whole nature of the budget changes. I will not say the lightest budget then, if enough is done for the poor.
Okay.
Not only enough is done, I am saying sufficient measures have not been taken to satisfy the basic needs of the poor. What to say enough is done? Enough is done is a radical change in the budget itself.
In other words, the budget is negligent to the poor.
Negligent means that word also in consonance with the earlier budgets. I will not say that. But there is no radical change as compared to earlier one, because whatever increase you have shown, if you see how the rupee has been devaluated, inflation rate, then you will see not much is increased.
Let's talk about another aspect of the budget. This budget envisages disinvestment of some of the most profitable public sector undertakings, MTNL, VSNL, BHEL, ONGC. Do you approve of that sort of disinvestment?
Not approve. We are totally opposed to it, because it knocks at the bottom of our understanding a commitment which they have also agreed to. For instance, they have said, we will make this public sector undertaking world giants to compete with the world. This indicates they are going to demolish even those who are profitable concerns. This shows the attitude toward the public sector, which the big business is demanding from the beginning. They don't understand what role it has played in creating an industrial base in the country itself. So what they are going to do is to demolish that. Whatever is stated in the common minimum program, they want to bypass it.
Tell me something. You've twice or thrice in this interview said that this budget reflects the interests of big business. Do you get the feeling that this budget has been dictated by the chambers of commerce and industry?
No question of dictating. The persons who are formulating the policies, they have got links with them. No question of dictating, it is a question of outlook. How do you want to develop the economy of the country? They are only calculating, Manmohan Singh as was trying to do, calculating, we will increase the rate of growth so much. For whose benefit? And benefit, the rate of growth can be increased by inviting the multinationals. You can raise the production and all this thing is concerned, but how it percolates to which section? It doesn't percolate to the lower section, it percolates only to the upper layer.
Who are these people who have links with the chambers of commerce that you don't approve of?
Not think they are links with the industry. So many people in the United Front, from working class to the big business representative were there in that.
So this is not an independent, objective budget. This is a budget that has been influenced by industry in a way you don't like.
I will not say the whole thing has been earlier also the same. I've said this is now.
But this time more than previously. You said that.
Earlier also from the beginning, since the liberalization from the beginning itself, budget was not as well representing the working class and the 12 million, their interest. But they will try to accommodate them so that they have to rule. They have to address to them also, they have to go to the electorate. They will have some measures. But at the same time, budget has been tuned from the beginning to the interests of, but at that time certain other positive elements were there.
But
At
it's
the
been
same
tuned.
time,
But it's been tuned to the interest of the elite and the business classes. Is that right? That's what you're saying.
I say earlier one demarcation is there now since the liberalization has started. Earlier, while looking at the interests of the big business, it used to concentrate on developing its public sector so that India can become a powerful industrial country.
But what about now?
Now there is a change in that since the liberalization policy is concerned. Now they say public sector has no relevance now. You give us, and private sector will do everything now.
Let me ask you about that. You have frequently said that you are against the opening up of the insurance sector. You have frequently said you will oppose the common minimum program's commitment to do that. Now this budget has opened up health insurance. What do you think about that?
We are opposed to it. We have made it very clear repeatedly. It is not in the interest of the Indian people also opening up this thing, so insurance sector opening up. It is a very profitable sector. They could contribute a lot. You could have given more suggestions to them. They could be expanded, and they have done a lot of work here. They are not in loss.
Tell me something. You've just said you're opposed to it. How will you exercise this opposition?
Exercise them. You see, 3-2-1 in the parliament itself. We'll raise our voice about the budget, what negative features are there, and outside also will mobilize the people, raise their consciousness, which will have impact because every party has to go to the electorate to face them.
What's the third measure?
Huh?
You said there are 3 ways you will exercise
Third,
your
we will
opposition.
discuss in the steering committee also, place our views before that, whether this can be amended, certain section can be amended. We hope they will listen to us.
So you will actually look for amendments. That's what you just said.
All the 3 factors I am telling you, don't pick up one.
I understand.
I would not
No,
like
I
that to
understand.
happen.
You will oppose it in Parliament.
We will try to, certain sections, we will try to amend so that more benefit accrues to the poorer sections.
So that I can understand, what are the sections you particularly want to see amended?
Section means so many points are there. First is resource mobilization. We would like to mobilize the resources, resources will be mobilized from the sector where the resources are available. Now you see, lot of investment is there.
Are
in
you
the real
saying
estate.
you want the tax cuts reversed or made lesser than
They
they
have
are?
not touched the real sources. I tell you, the states, real estates, lot of black money is being invested there. They are not going to get much out of this black money concession which they have given. Earlier we have seen the experience. Every government has tried that, they will fail. But the real thing was, if they had fixed up a stamp duty on all transactions which are being taken to stop the real estate. Anybody pays the real money in the real estate? I have all the black money is being used.
So you want a
Similarly,
new
landed interests are completely free. No tax for the landed interest they go on spending. So for the poor is agriculture labor, poor peasants, small fellows are concerned, they suffer.
Let me understand, Sujit Saab. You're saying you want some form of agriculture tax, you want some form of stamp duty. These are 2 amendments you're going to try and push for in the steering committee.
Not only that, some positive measures also, where from you get money to tackle 3 problems which I have mentioned. One of unemployment, this doesn't ensure. Second of poverty. Third of price rise.
Quite right.
As a whole.
So when you say you want to tackle the wider question of where do you get money, you're saying you want new taxes introduced. That's another amendment.
Naturally, not only new taxes introduced, 47,000 crores of rupees are due
Okay.
from the big business houses.
Let me
From
push.
why they are grabbing that money?
You're talking about amendments you're going to look for in the steering committee. Will you try and reverse the opening up of health insurance?
We will try our best.
Will you try and reverse the commitment to disinvest?
We will, disinvest, total disinvestment I can't say, but we will not like this disinvestment to take place in the sectors which are profitable.
Tell me something else. Will you try and reverse some of the cuts in corporate tax, some of the cuts in excise and customs duty, some of the cuts in income tax? Will you try and reverse those?
Naturally we'll fight for that.
In which case, let me see. If you are successful in the things you are fighting for, reversing tax cuts, adding new taxes, reversing the opening up of health insurance, reversing the commitment to disinvest. If you are successful in all that, then the budget will be quite majorly amended.
I have no illusion that I'll be successful in all that.
No, I'm not saying you will
knowing
be.
the composition of the United Front, I know that because differences are there, I cannot impose my policies, but they should not try to impose their policies in full.
But you're also saying something else,
What?
that you're going to fight for your policies to the extent you can.
I extend not only in the assembly and our parliament, but outside too.
So what you're also saying is that we can't say that this budget will necessarily be passed in its present form at the moment.
I won't say that. I won't say that.
But there is room for amendment. You're
Because,
saying that?
no, we are, I tell you, because all other representing the same interests are rallying around the budget. Congress party, BJP, they cannot go against this budget.
So you're getting isolated.
Isolated in this aspect because the working class, we spend the interest of the working class and 12 million.
But isolated or not, you're still going to fight as hard as you can.
Naturally.
On that note, I'm afraid we have to take a commercial break, but I want to come back, Mr. Sujit, and talk about other aspects of your relationship with this government. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Harkishan Singh Surjit. Mr. Surjit, in part 1 we talked about your attitude to the budget as a whole. I want to now talk about your relationship with the government and the steering committee. Was the steering committee consulted about this budget before it was presented in Parliament?
Budget is normally not discussed in that way because it is the prerogative of the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, but the direction was discussed. And we had emphasized there, it must address to the poorer section of Indian population.
But were you
Poor
aware,
deprived section.
but were you aware that the real direction of this budget is in fact, as you said, elitist and pro-rich? It does say things to the poor, but the real thrust is in a different direction. Were you aware of that?
We knew, but not to that extent which had come. We knew, because we knowing the composition of this, knowing the commitment of various parties who have joined together to form the United Front towards the policies of liberalization, we were aware, but not to the extent it is done.
Tell me something, were things hidden from you or were you deceived?
I will not say hidden or deceived. It's a question of policies, because all the certain sections of this front, certain sections of this, they were already committed to this policy. But we thought they will give some more consideration to the views of the left.
Which they did not do. Which they did not do.
Not to the extent we expected.
Tell me something, the steering committee is supposed to steer the government. From what you're saying, not only are you not steering, there's no question of even backseat driving, it seems the government has taken you for a ride.
I will not agree with that point, because I told you earlier, this government, this front has come into existence not only on the basis of a common approach on economic policies. Other factors were there also. Very important factor which the country was facing. It has come into existence to ward off the danger, threat which was being posed from the BJP to national unity. And from that angle all these parties came together. It was not the front which was formed before the elections. It's the front which was formed after the elections. So from that angle, many other issues were there of great importance. That was threat to unity of the country, threat to national unity, the corruption scandals. On that score, government has fared well. And it can really take credit to that. Those
You're really confident it's fared well on that score?
Yes, on all the scores, because you see,
Then answer me this if you're so
Yes,
confident.
yes.
Recently, an opinion poll has been done of 13,000 people. And it shows that if an election were to be held today, the United Front will lose seats, the Congress will lose seats, but the BJP and its allies, and those are the people you wanted to keep out, the BJP and its allies will get 240.
You see, I don't know where from the calculations are made. I can tell you that in the corporation election in Bombay, figures have come where BJP, Shiv Sena combined got 12 lakh votes and Samajwadi Party alone got 10 lakh votes, coming first.
The BJP has just swept the Delhi municipal elections, they've swept Punjab,
Why
they've won
don't you miss it?
Chhindwara, they won Nagaur.
I can tell you, you see, so far this is Punjab is concerned, factors are different. It is because of Akalis, not the BJP's thing you see there. It is a quite different factor. There I tell you, why should you miss Bombay? Bombay is a very strong hold where the BSP, BJP are in power. What is the BJP in Gujarat? What is happening in Rajasthan? It is wrong to show that BJP is growing, BJP is growing. BJP is not growing.
So you think the United Front has successfully contained the BJP?
No, I will say one factor. I do admit one factor. United Front is missing one point. That in the last election, one of the factors was the economic policies of the Congress government, which landed them to the soup and a big defeat.
Well, Mr. Chidambaram's budget takes the Congress party's economic policies two steps further.
That is what I am saying. This is what he is forgetting.
So hang on, are you saying that Mr. Chidambaram is going to land the United Front in the soup?
This factor, one factor I am telling you, this they must draw lesson from what happened to the Congress, the policy of liberalization, where it had landed them to.
So to explain to me, if the Congress's economic policies landed the Congress in a soup, will Chidambaram's budget land the United Front in a soup?
I will say this one factor, other three factors, Congress was combined.
No, but each चीज आते दस्तो एक खतराते है, एक खतराते है.
I tell you, this is a negative element in United Front's policies, But other factors which combined together had an effect. People are concerned with, for instance, I told you, the minority population in the country. They are more concerned about their security rather than any other matter, economic policy, other policies.
Okay.
Other factors are also there.
But you're proud of the United Front's performance. Then let me put something to you. Last week, a very senior leader of the Janata Dal, a member of the Nehru cabinet, a member of the Morarji Desai cabinet, several times Chief Minister of Orissa, Biju Patnaik, he described the United Front as 13 quarrelling lobsters.
I will not comment on Biju Patnaik. I know him well. I don't want to comment on in this age.
Is he right or wrong? Just tell me that.
I don't want to comment. In this old age, it is better to keep quiet rather than commenting. Only this much I will advise I can give him.
Achha, he said it is very unfortunate that the left make their differences public, and they do it because, let me finish sir, they do it because they put their party's interest before the national interest. Ude bare ki kehnde ho tusi?
We know more about the international. Our national interests are not separated from the party's interests. The parties are not separate at all. That is why I don't want to comment. If you go to his statement, every week he'll state contradictory statements. One day he will say join the Congress, induct them, another says join with the BJP. No coherence is there. This age factor is also there.
He has actually said that this government will only become stable if the CPM, that's your party, and the Congress party join the government. 9 months ago, that wasn't possible. Do you think today things have changed and Congress should join?
No. It's not on our agenda at all.
What about CPM?
Congress is behind.
What about CPM?
What?
Should
CPI has taken a decision not to join.
And that is irrevocable.
We are doing from the outside to strengthen the United Front, whatever we can do.
Many people say that if the United Front really wants to survive and establish its credibility, it needs a new man at the helm as Prime Minister.
I don't think it's the question. And nobody has raised in the United Front this question at all. Main question, how it comes out of those things, you see, new man, Chidambaram to be there. You see, how does it come out of your whole interview? It doesn't come out of this interview.
The stock markets would love Mr. Chidambaram to be Prime Minister.
Stop. Why they have praised? Because it is the Dev Gowda's Prime Ministership under which Chidambaram has been able to produce this budget. It is not without his consent.
How much of this responsibility for the budget and how much of the credit is Deva Gowda's, how much is Chidambaram's?
Both have a credit. As a Prime Minister, he has got also the credit because without his consent, this would have not come.
In part one, you told me you didn't like a lot about this budget, so he also takes the blame.
Naturally, he had to take the blame because when United Front partners, they have resentment in certain sections of the budget, naturally he has to take the blame there too.
Do you think the Prime Minister handles the United Front and the steering committee properly?
No, I would not say that. Because knowing the composition of the United Front itself, I know, I am aware, the contradictions which are there, and in spite of that, for the wider interest of the nation, how they came together, I know those limitations also.
My last word, I want to come back to the budget. Is this a clever budget or is it too clever?
I won't say clever or non-clever. It is the budget which satisfies the foreign monopoly houses, World Bank, IMF, and the big business.
But it does not satisfy Harkishan Singh Surjit.
Naturally.
Mr. Surjit, for speaking so openly to In Focus, thank you very much indeed. That's it this week. We'll be back next week with another interviewee. But for today, bye-bye.